This is Eric Posebo with another Body Morph Pros exclusive here at the 2015 IFBB Mr. Olympia with Brad Rowe. Brad, how you feeling right now, buddy?
I feel great. I'm on cloud 9.
First Olympia out of the box here. Turned pro at Nats a couple years ago. You talked a little bit about the press conference. I want to touch on it. You're talking about, you got second place at Nationals, which got you one of the pro cards. There's a lot of flack about taking the second place, but you came in. The conditioning's been there. The vacuum pose has always been there. That's never left you.
Yeah.
You qualified this year. And then there was the injury to the leg. So talk to me a little bit about this year, getting ready, qualifying for the Olympia, and how that feels.
As I said, coming off taking second place to Kevin Jordan at Nationals, getting my pro card. I had qualms myself with taking the pro card, but, like my wife said and everybody around me, they said, it's an opportunity here, make the best of it, So, we decided to go forth with that, and I skipped that first portion of the year, qualifying for the 14 Olympia. And jumped out of the box into Phoenix. It was my pro debut. And I'm not going to lie, I was nervous as shit. A couple weeks before, I legitimately thought about pulling out. I was like, there's no way I'm ready. Because I'm training with Sean Roden and going up in the posing room with him every day. And look at what he looks like.
And you guys look similar.
Yeah, so similar. Our structure, our skin tone, everything. So I'm looking at him in the mirror. He's getting ready for the Olympia, and I'm getting ready for my show. And I'm like, I'll feel good about myself. And he'll walk up, take his clothes off, have me take pictures. I'm just like, not ready. I'm going to get my ass kicked. So I almost backed out. He got my ear, said, do it. And you know what? You should do Russia too and do this show. And when I got third at Phoenix, it was like, holy shit.
I belong.
I know it wasn't the hardest lineup in the world, but, I did what I had to do and I came up in shape. And that's a lot of things that a lot of pros, unfortunately, these days, they're not getting in shape.
Conditioning is like a lost art.
It's really frustrating because there's a lot of guys with so much potential. You guys that I've beaten throughout the year that should blow my doors off, but they come in soft, So that's something that I always want to continue with. And, we decided to jump in the Cal really early, this year. My original thoughts were to do Vancouver. I wanted to hit Vancouver and Atlantic City and hope between those two I'd get enough points to qualify for the O. At 7 weeks out from the Cal, I sent progress pics in for Chris, and he's like, you look pretty lean. He's like, what about the Cal? I'm like, let's see if we can do it. So we did a 7-week prep, and I ended up getting third there. And I was like, well, if we're in shape, let's just keep going. We moved on to Chicago, Dallas, and then to Chicago, and then I decided to skip Vancouver, which is the only show I planned to do. And that same weekend, I tore my quad as I was getting ready for Sacramento 3 weeks later. I had a good 1.5 inch long tear in my vastus lateralis, and 3/4 inch tear in my TFL. My whole leg blew up, but I said, screw it, I'm here. We've competed all year, sacrificed all this.
I was actually shocked. I watched on Facebook and Instagram that you kept training, wrapped that bitch up, got in the gym. I think a lot of guys would have just threw in the towel, but you kept going at it.
I knew it wasn't any damage to the tendon or anything like that, so it wasn't anything going to be crazy career, ruining. The biggest thing was just trying to get the inflammation down. Luckily, I was lean enough. I didn't have to do a lot of cardio, so did a little bit of walking I needed to do. My legs are big, so I didn't have to worry about leg training, so that that was another plus. It didn't look how it should have on stage, and judges penalized me for it without a doubt. I was probably the second hardest guy in the show, and I got thrown back at 9th. But I had a huge blown up leg, so. Yeah. And I decided to skip the next 2 shows because my chances with a screwed up leg were, better qualifying for the Olympia on the points that I already had than they were cracking top 5 at either one of those shows. So it was hard to kind of back off and kind of let things play out and not have control of your own destiny. But I did what I needed to do as an athlete and got recovered, and I'm close to 100% today. So. And
I was going to ask you, taking some time off obviously would be good for you. Yeah. And you must be happy with the way you look then for the Olympia?
I'm happy. I'm not going to be the biggest guy. I don't have crazy thickness, but before I walked in here, I was hard as nails and probably my most conditioned look that I've ever had. My leg, I've been able to train enough the past 3 weeks where I've got the volume back in my leg. It's got full separation. Okay. So I'm happy, there's a very good chance that I'm going to be my all-time best tomorrow night. So that's all I can ask for.
And I don't think anyone can ever really knock for the conditioning. I mean, the glutes are always in, the quads are always shredded. Like I said, one of the few guys that can still pull a vacuum pose. For those of you youngsters that don't know what it is, go Google it. But you always pull one on stage. It's always very impressive. You just don't see, like you were saying, you just don't see a lot of guys coming in with the quality, grainy, shredded condition. Right. And these are pros, and we should be seeing that. And you bring it every year, every show.
Yeah, and that's something that I pride myself on. I know I'm not going to be the biggest guy there, so I at least need to bring something to the table, and that's conditioning and hardness. So, and if I control my own destiny, I let Chris Aceto do my diet, but I'm one of the few guys that bitches when he backs off, and I'm like, come on, let's go. Less carbs, more cardio. And he's like, Brad, you're going to wither away to nothing. He's like, it's one thing being shredded, but you can't look like a men's physique guy standing up there. You're close enough as it is. So, if it was me, I'd probably be on stage at 190 pounds with not an ounce of fat on me. So
men's classic physique now, right?
Yeah, I don't have bird bones, so that's not going to happen. So
let's talk about now. A lot of people are going to, where do I know that guy? You do a lot of commercial work out in, you live on California, right?
Yep.
You do a lot of commercial work. I saw you in an Oikos commercial recently.
Yep.
Taco Bell commercial I thought was pretty popular.
Yeah. It's been kind of blessed with that. It's something that all of this fell into my lap. I wasn't into bodybuilding growing up. I got into bodybuilding through fitness modeling from an agent that found me, and so all this is kind of new, not anything I'd ever dreamed of. And I went on a couple auditions when I was in New York, got my first commercial, and it was a CarMax commercial. And, just been randomly going on auditions here and there. I've never taken classes or anything. It's just not a dream of mine, but if the opportunity's there to put, another 10, 15 grand in my pocket, then I'm stupid not to take advantage of it. And that's the hardest thing about moving away from LA, which I want to do badly. It's just hard to pass up those opportunities and that kind of money.
Especially because that's kind of the hub for acting. And
right. I mean, that's where.
And while you're still young and pretty, you got to do it.
Yeah. They literally send you an email the night before at like 8 o'clock at night. Hey, you have an audition tomorrow at 11 a.m. Yeah. So it's tough because I got to cancel my clients or get them to shift around, and sometimes it screws my training. And I've skipped a lot of auditions because I didn't feel like screwing up. If I was close to a show, I didn't want to screw up my prep the next day. Stupid me, but when you're focused on something, you got to give it your all, and that's my take.
Let's talk a little bit about Front Row Athletics. I know it's a clothing line that you kind of started, right?
Yeah, clothing line we started about a year.
Training business, but you started a clothing line.
Yeah, year and a half ago with the Front Row Athletics. I was always kind of a smart kid. Not a goody two shoes, but I tried in school. I was tentative. I was always an athlete as well. So I've always been trying to break those athlete stereotypes. I played collegiate football. I come from a town that we're considered a bunch of idiots and rock throwing bubs. So
and being a bodybuilder doesn't help that, right?
Right. But even the transition from middle school to our regional high school. I remember talking to some parents and they're like, "You're from Seabrook?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Why? They're like, "You speak really well." And so those are the kind of things that I had to fight. So that's what Front Row is. I want to kind of get away from this whole F you, kill this, kill that bullshit in the bodybuilding industry, and show, that you can be respectful and you can be proud to be a bodybuilder, but you don't have to, go with the douchebaggery,
Yep.
So this is kind of like that kid at the front of the class who, may not be the brightest, but he's there to put his best effort forward and, set an example. And I think that's what we need to do to our youth is set an example, because there's, unfortunately TV, media, everything's headed, it's just terrible. So we're kind of the anti-trending company at the moment.
And where do they find, what's the website?
We're actually just launched our website, How We Rowe. It's How We Rowe, my last name. ROWE. So on there you'll also find videos and photos and things from me and my wife. We're going to put a lot of effort and a lot of money into this project and this website and get a lot of content for you guys, weekly videos, stuff of her in the gym, stuff of me in the gym, us together driving in the car, bickering, typical
real life.
Right, real life stuff, We're going to have some Q&As and things like that to answer any questions, and I think it's going to be a great site, a great place for people to come and learn some new things.
Well, we look forward to it. You guys check out Front Row Athletics. Go to his website and check that out as well, all the blogs and videos. Congratulations on your qualification for the Mr. O, your first one out of the gates. This has been Brad Rowe here at the 2015 Mr. O, first one. So congratulations. Good luck tomorrow. Until then, this has been Eric Postaple, another Body Morph Pros exclusive.